Hey Internet. If you've seen my previous video, you know that I'm turning this 2012 BMW X3 into a 500 horsepower sleeper and documenting it on this channel. However, as part of the project, I'm also making non-performance updates like swapping out the head unit for a modern 12-inch Android touchscreen. The standard BMW head unit coupled with iDrive is pretty nice, but in a 2012 model, it's a bit dated, has no CarPlay or Android Auto, and can only be controlled by the iDrive wheel. Nothing like a modern 12-inch touchscreen with the flexibility of Android. So we're going to update that next. After shopping around, I decided on the MotiveSupplies navigation screen. I selected the highest spec unit and added various accessories that fit my needs. For instance, my X3 didn't come with a backup camera, so I wanted to add that. After ordering from MotiveSupplies, the display and hardware arrived. I got the 12-inch display, the display's mounting bracket, the wiring harness, hardware, and some pry tools. A replacement hatch latch with a camera. This didn't work for me, by the way, but I'll talk more about that later. A wireless sender and receiver for the backup camera. I also got a long video cable in case I opted to run a wire from the backup camera to the dash. A dash cam. Finally, I also got an optional OBD2 adapter that allows you to get lots of details about your car on your display. Okay, on to the install. You should probably cover your wood trim before you start. MotiveSupplies gives you some pry tools as part of your purchase, but they're kind of flimsy. For about 20 bucks, you can get a nice, decent quality set of pry tools from Amazon, which I recommend. Using the pry tool, I pried from right to left at the following pry points and gently worked the trim up and out. There are a few connectors you'll need to remove before the vent panel comes free. Once they're removed, you can reach the Torx screws that hold the control panel in place. Underneath the control panel, there's another piece of trim. Pull from the bottom up and out, and it should pop free, giving you access to the bottom screws of the control panel. Disconnect the small connector in the back, and this will be out of your way. Now you can remove the 4 Torx screws holding the control panel in place. There are 2 connectors in the back. These pry off by sliding a flathead screwdriver under the tab and sliding the tab along the neck of the screwdriver. 2 screws hold the iDrive display in place. Note that of the 2 OEM connectors, I only used the pink connector. This stumped me for a bit, since it seemed wrong that only one of the connectors to the original display would be needed for the new display. However, for me, this was the case. Remove the 4 Torx screws and the main controller will slide forward and we can start to wire up the new display. Disconnect the main plug. You can use a pick tool to pop out the green fiber optic cable. This will be replugged into the harness supplied by MotiveSupplies. You're going to need to refer to the instruction you received, as the wiring may vary depending on your options and vehicle specs. However, I'd expect them to be similar to what I did here. Plug the green fiber optic cable into the correct spot on your MotiveSupplies harness. Snap the main connector of the new harness into the control unit and snap in place. Now connect the original main connector to the female end of the supplied harness. This gives the new display access to all the BMW functionality. I bought the GPS splitters so the new display could use BMW's GPS. Disconnect the original connector from the control panel. Connect it to the splitter cable supplied. You may not have gotten this. Connect the other end into the control unit. Route this and all other wires up through the channel between heat vents to where the new display will sit. Now we start connecting things up into the back of the new display. Here's where I connected the BMW pink connector to the new display. Note my confusion about the other wire. Okay, after everything is wired up, I wanted to do a smoke test, so I did not snap and screw everything back in place. I just connected what I needed to turn power back on and make sure things were working okay. As you can see, the BMW screen was on an incorrect profile and was flickering. By touching the screen, I was taken to the Android side. Under factory settings, I selected the correct profile for my car and the flickering stopped. Everything looks to be working, including the iDrive wheel. Now I started putting things back in place for real. The display bracket mounts in place of the original BMW display. Note the center opening for wires in the bracket and the rectangular mounts on the display. The display snaps in place and has a good solid fit. So I actually screwed up and put everything back together without realizing that I needed to run an aux cable to the aux-in connector, which is all the way under the console tray. So I got to undo some of the trim again to run this wire properly. Remove the screws from the console tray and it will lift out. Of course, there are connectors underneath to remove. Using your pry tool, gently work the console trim up. Pry on both sides and it will pop up and out. There are 2 connectors to remove. I ran the aux cable down and through the console like so, and then drilled a hole into the console tray so I could plug in the aux cable. Fill the hole with silicone. So one thing that didn't work out so well for me was the backup camera. My X3 did not have a backup camera, so I added the trunk latch backup camera recommended by MotiveSupplies to my order. I also added the remote transmitter receiver so I wouldn't have to run wires from front to back. However, the trunk switch/camera didn't actually fit my rear hatch, even though it looked like it should in the picture. Also, the wireless transmitter receiver had a kind of weak signal and flickered intermittently. Anyway, I ended up just buying a cheap license plate backup camera from Amazon and drilling, clipping, and mounting it next to my existing trunk latch. I also bought a stronger, but still cheap, video transmitter receiver from Amazon. So my recommendation is if you need to add a backup camera, you probably can do better by just buying the components separately and connecting them to the system. Alright, so final result is pretty great. The X3 now has a huge 12-inch touchscreen display, complete with wireless CarPlay / Android Auto, offline navigation, a neat dashboard, and it can even play high-definition video. It can be controlled by touch or the iDrive wheel, and you have full access to the original BMW CIC system. Simply touch the screen to return to the Android system. All in all, this is a fantastic upgrade and really modernizes the interior of the X3. Okay, hope to see you in the next episode.